Hey everybody, Phil Easy here. We have tomatoes. Yeah. So today we're going to be canning all these tomatoes we just pulled out of our greenhouse. My lovely my better half, is going to take you through. You'll hear her voice a lot of it. She's the one that does a lot of this processing and has that good knowledge stored inside. Now, one of the things we wanted to make sure before we put this video out and put this in the video is that you guys know that it can be dangerous to can your own food, especially tomatoes. There's a condition called botulism. It's not good. You don't want to get it. It can happen from improperly canning your tomatoes. This video is not a guarantee that that won't happen. Although we've been eating canned tomatoes for over 20 years now, that we've been canning ourselves and have not had an issue, it won't guarantee anything that way. So if you're concerned, maybe take some extra few clicks, look that up. Make sure you understand what you might be getting into when you start canning your food. Other than that though, like I said, we've been doing it for years. It's wonderful to turn the canned tomatoes into, I do a lot of pasta sauces with it and that sort of a thing. But yeah, I'm going to pass you over to my lovely other, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching everybody. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. It's a big red square, kind of like these colors, but not square obviously. And we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Okay, so the most important part about canning tomatoes is to be prepared up front. So you want to have picked and cleaned. Just get off most of the dirt for your tomatoes. You want to have your lids ready to go. You want to have your canning supplies. So what we'll need is a funnel. We'll need a scoop, a magnetic puller for the lids, and then something to bring the jars out, because everything with canning is really hot. Okay, so we have a small pot we're going to put water in there when we're ready, and those are going to be for our lids. We have a large pot here. I'm just heating up the water. This is going to be for boiling our tomatoes to get the skin off. And then we have a large pot here. So what we did first was we took our jars, we washed them with soap and water, rinsed them, and then we put them in water. We boil them for at least 10 minutes at a heavy boil just to sanitize them. And then I've turned the heat off now, but I'm going to keep the lid on because I want those jars really hot and ready to go. I have my ingredients, so lucky for you today, I'm sharing with you my great-grandmother's canned tomato recipe. It is half a teaspoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, and approximately 3/4 of an inch of tomato sauce or juice, at the bottom of the canning jar. And then before you add the tomatoes, you will add those ingredients, and it just makes for really nice tomatoes. And then the other thing I've got ready is a clean sink of cold water, and then I'll put a bucket here for my scraps. So we're prepared now to prep the tomatoes. Okay, so the next step is going to be preparing our tomatoes to get the skins off. And so what I like to do is I like to have a bowl just for my scraps, and just a paring knife. You're going to take the tomato. You're going to check for any blemishes. This kind of a thin blemish will just pull off with the skin, so I'm not worried about that. So all I'm going to do with this one is simply take my knife, and I'm just going to basically take out the core, put it in my bowl, and then I'm going to do 1, 2 strips, and then this tomato is ready to go. Okay? So this tomato, you can see on the bottom, has a bigger blemish. Because this blemish actually goes into the tomato, we actually want to cut it right out. And so before I boil it, I'm going to make sure that there's none of that left in the tomato, and it's just fine to just pull it out just like that. And then I would do it for this part as well. Okay, so now we're ready. You can see that we go at a heavy boil, and that's what you want with the water. We're basically going to make sure your hands are clean, but you're going to take your prepared tomatoes and you're going to gently place them in. You can put as many as you want into the pot, but just make sure you know that as soon as you start the process, you have to finish these ones. So I usually take a look and try to get about two full jars worth. And so I'm going to start there. Now then I'm going to set my timer for 2 minutes, okay, because I want these tomatoes to boil for 2 minutes, and that's going to loosen the skins. Okay, so now I've got about 20 seconds left here. It's fine if it goes over 2 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my lid, use my grippers. I'm going to pull out one of the jars. It's nice and hot. Okay, I've got my jar out. Put my lid back on. I want to keep everything hot. So now I've got my jar. I've already opened this. I'm ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, this is approximate, but it's approximately, I would say about 2 cups, and you can see that it just comes up about 1 inch. Okay, I want to move as quickly as I can. I've got my teaspoon. It's half a teaspoon, and you don't have to be super accurate. Okay, so now my jar is ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to take my slotted spoon. This is where it gets hot and messy. But I'm going to bring it over and I'm going to place my tomatoes into cold water. I don't want to do too many at a time. I don't want them to get too cold, but I'm going to estimate how many it's going to take to fill my jar. Okay, once they get into the water, moving quickly, we're going to take them, and as you can see, everything falls off. I put them in there. Now what I do, my grandmother taught me, is just split. I don't cut them. Other people will, and that's fine, but honestly, these are canned tomatoes. They don't have to be pretty. Okay, now I'm making sure too that my lids are ready to go. So I've got that water on as well.
Can you say that part again?
So I'm going to make sure that my lids also are ready to go. So make sure you have your lids heating up. They don't have to be boiling, okay, but they do have to be warm, okay? Now you want to bring your tomatoes up until just below, like about 1 inch of space. I'm pushing down, okay? Don't have to stir it, okay? And see, you've got, if I take this out, a nice inch of space. Okay. Now we're going to take the jar, okay, over here. I'm going to take a clean rag, all right, and I'm going to wipe the top of the jar. If you're reusing your jar, make sure there's no cracks or divots, okay? Then I'm going to take my magnetic and I'm going to pull out one of my lids, placing it onto the clean rim, okay, right there. Then I take my lid. I reuse all my lids, but I got to make sure that there's no divots or bends in them. And here, just to hand tight, okay. Then I'm going to grab my jar again, and I'm going to place it right back in the water and repeat. Okay, so now you can see we've got the 7 jars, which fills a big canner. They're all prepped and ready to go. So now what I'm going to do, I need to make sure there's at least 1 inch or so of water, okay, above. With my canner, I look at, it comes down about 1 inch. So I want the water up above and covering all of the jars, okay? Then I'm going to turn it on to max, all right? And I'm going to cover it with the lid. And then we are going to basically wait until steam is blowing out of the side. At that point, we'll set the timer. And depending on where you live and the altitude, you need to look up how many minutes you need to can your tomatoes. You do not start the canner now, the timer. You wait until there is literally steam blowing out of the canner. Then you start the timer for your altitude. Once they're done, You're going to turn off the temperature on the stove, let it sit, and after a couple minutes, pull the lid off. Again, let it sit, and then use your apparatus to pull the jars out. Again, don't touch the lids of the jar, don't tighten them, just let them sit, and before long you'll start hearing the beautiful popping sound of your canning being successful. Okay, so once we start seeing the steam, I'm going to set the timer for 40 minutes. And for us, that's adequate time for them to can and seal properly.
Hey everybody, here's the end result of those tomatoes and canning them. Looks like we ended up with quite a few jars. This is excellent. Everything's sealed down. That's what we were hoping for. They all did their little clicking, and now we can put them away for long-term storage. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below, notification bell, and we'll see you guys real soon. Take care. Bye.